Hi, welcome to video lecture 25. My name is Fatih, and in today's video lecture, I'll be talking about the equilibrium inequality. As you all know, there are some misunderstandings in the income distributions meaning. So, for example, in the figure on your left hand side, you see that more than a third of respondents in the 19th percentile of the income distribution describe their income as average compared with Americans in general. On the other hand, in the figure in the right hand side, the vast majority of respondents in the survey thought they were lower on the income ladder than they actually were. As you all know, wealth inequality is a big problem. However, before describing the inequality or wealth inequality, let's talk about the meaning of wealth in the first place. Wealth, as also known net worth, is defined as the total value of everything someone owns minus any debt that they owe. A person's net worth includes their bank accounts, retirement assets including stocks and bonds, property including your home, vehicles, art, collections, etc., minus the value of loans and mortgages. Also, there are different inequality types. For example, actual, estimated, and ideal inequality are the inequality types that we usually talk about. As an example, for the actual, estimated, and ideal inequality, as you can see, wealth owned by the indicated quantile percentage, you're seeing that each inequality level actually differs. So actual equality, estimated equality, and ideal equality, and in Americans actually ideals do not differ much by income, race, gender, and political party. And at the end of wealth equality, that inequality actually creates income equality, income inequality. So wealth is a stock variable and income is a flow variable. In capitalism, capital is invested for profit. According to Thomas Piketty, one of the worldly known economists, the average rate of return is around 4 to 5%. But some capitalists earn much higher rates of return. So now we are going to talk about wealth, market income, and disposable income. Market income equals to earned income um, um, plus return from wealth. Disposable income equals to market income minus taxes plus cash government transfers. Across countries and over time, Gini coefficient for wealth, Gini coefficient for income, Gini coefficient for disposable income are actually getting bigger. So here, actually, institutions play a big role, and then institutions actually shape income inequality, market income inequality, and disposable income inequality. On the figure in the right, on your right hand side, you're seeing the inequality in wealth, earnings, and disposable income in the US, Sweden, and Japan, respectively. Now let's see income inequality over time and across countries in these figures. Here you're seeing the years on the x-axis and the income share of the top 1% on the y-axis in both figures. So starting from 1910 up until 2015 in the first graph, you're seeing US, South Africa, Argentina, UK, China, and India, and then their income inequality over time. And on the right hand side, Germany, Japan, Italy, France, Sweden, Netherlands, and Denmark. And as you can see, the income inequality for the countries on the right hand side are actually lower than the countries on the left hand side. So you can ask this question to yourself right now. So what explains the increase in income inequality in the US and some other countries, especially the ones on the left hand side, since 1980? So now, equilibrium inequality. So in economic theory, the theory suggests that income inequality increases with inequality of wealth, firms' market power. Um, these actually explain the income inequality, and then they actually increases the income inequality. So, as you all remember, we actually talk about this model of choice and conflict between Angela and Bruno in Unit 5. Um, and then we talked Angela's income declines when Bruno owns the land, and Angela's income increases when landless farmers organize. And in Unit 9, we actually modeled the labor market, which combines labor discipline model in Unit 6 and price setting firm in Unit 7. So in the figure here, we are seeing the share of total wealth owned by the richest 1%. As you can see, before the Bolshevik Revolution, World War One, and voting rights for all males except US 1914 to 1919, income actually the wealth owned by the richest 1% was at its peak. And after that, starting with the World War II and the golden age of capitalism, we actually saw a decline in the wealth of the richest 1%, and after 1980s, we are seeing increase again. You can also ask the question yourself now that why actually that increase happened, and then what happened exactly in the capitalism and maybe in the financialization of the system. So wage setting curve in the economic theory, we also talk about the wage setting curve. Economic theory actually sheds a light on the distribution of income. So for example, what is the relationship between unemployment and wages? So here you're seeing a figure on your left hand side, hourly wage in the x-axis and an effort per hour on the y-axis, and then in the figure on the right hand side, employment in the x-axis and real wage on the y-axis. So best disposed function in the figure left hand side, when unemployment is 12%, you're seeing that the wage is low, and then here real wage is low in the corresponding graph in the right hand side, or figure on the right hand side. And this is when unemployment is 12%, wage is low. So what about best response function when the unemployment is 5%? So the corresponding wage for this best response function is a higher wage. So basically, at unemployment level, when unemployment level is 5%, wage is high. So, like, of course, these are like just examples in the wage setting curve theory. So, in the data, also we actually can see this. For example, economists estimate wage setting curves actually using local unemployment data, local earnings data. For example, in the figure on your right hand side, Stefan Munchkin estimated this curve for the US, and the data fits the predictions from the labor discipline model. When the unemployment is low, real income earnings is high. Another theory is the profit setting theory. As you can see in your left hand side, the the curves, the isoprofit curves are there, and here we are seeing the quantity and then price when at point B. So this the line that represents between W and P star is the profit per unit output, and the length between 0 to W is the wage per unit output. And we are seeing point C and A also. So the figure on the right hand side represents now the price setting curve at B, and real profit per worker pi divided by P is the dashed red line, is the area or the length of the line between the red dashed area and price setting curve, and the area between 0 and W over P is the real wage per worker. So according to this theory, we are seeing that the point until point B, there's actually employed people, and point B till the end of the graph, like labor supply, we are seeing the unemployment rate. So, and we all know that point B is the equilibrium. And at that equilibrium, wage and profit is at the intersection of the wage setting curve and price setting curve. This is Nash equilibrium. This is actually a Nash equilibrium point. So firms are paying the profit maximizing wage. Firms have chosen the profit maximizing price and quantity and employment. Workers are providing the utility maximizing effort level. Some workers are involuntarily unemployed. So this is the point of a Nash equilibrium. And the model determines the equilibrium level of income inequality. How? Let's see it in the next slide. So the figure that actually shows that in the price setting curve at point B, real wage is 0.6. And if you remember, like the area between 0 and 80 actually represents people who are employed, and the rest, at least like for that figure, 80 to 90, like 10, are actually unemployed. So let's see this in this figure. So if you remember from the Gini coefficient calculation, we actually calculated as A over A plus B. If you remember, A area is the line that actually represents the employed, unemployed, and owners, like that area between the perfect equality area represents A, and then the rest of the graph on the right hand side represents point B. So let's actually do it with this example. So here, for example, area B is going to be B1 plus B2 plus B3. So here B1, as I said before, people who are in the range of 80 to 90 on the left hand side figure, they are unemployed. So they are going to get 0% of the income. So as you can see on the right hand side, people from 0 to 10, which actually represents the area of unemployed, they get the 0% of the total wealth. And from 10 to 90, which is actually represents the 80 people who are employed, they actually got 60% of the wealth, as you can see here, like real wage 0.6, which actually gets the like 60% of the total income. And the rest, 10% are considered the owners, and then they're going to get the rest of the wealth, which is 40%. So the area B that way represents B1 plus B2 plus B3. And then this is, let's like start with B1 now. B1 is 90 minus 10 times 60 divided by 2, 2400. B2, 10 times 60, 600, and B3 is 200. And total B is equal to 3000. And A is 2000. Therefore, the Gini coefficient is going to be 2000 divided by the entire area, 2000 divided by 5000, which is equal to 40% or approximately 40%. So what about we introduce a competition on the markets? So what happens? When the effect of competition is seen on inequality with the same graphs, approximately we are seeing that um, like considering the real wage now 76% with the competition wages like increase, the inequality we are gonna get around like 20% now, which was 40% before. So what about the effect of market power on inequality? As you can see with the data, big businesses overcharges Americans $5,000 a year. Compared to Europe, the US has experienced increased monopolization, increased prices. Over the last 2 decades, fewer corporations, actually more mergers in the US, and smaller labor share. And therefore, inequality has increased in the US. As you can see, inequality is more in 2014 considering 1974. So what about the economic theory and economic policy then? The models that we have covered so far can suggest that we could reduce income inequality by taxing wealth to reduce wealth inequality or breaking up or regulating firms with market power. And then here we are seeing the trends in global inequality, and then in the richer countries we are seeing that inequality is higher. However, um, like we can say that yes, inequality has increased within many countries. The income of some poor countries has converged towards those of rich countries meanwhile. So in the last figure of this lecture, we are seeing that global inequality among all individuals in the world and hypothetical inequality between countries. As you can see, the gap between these two are actually increasing. Although global inequality has declined since 1990, inequality between countries has declined even more. The difference between the curves is inequality within countries, which has increased in 1990. So therefore global inequality has declined, although within countries inequality has increased. This is because the fall in inequality between countries exceeds the rise in inequality within countries. So this is actually the end of the video lecture of this week, and I'll see you in the second video lecture.